Hey guys, it's Kat and I'm back for my first video of 2018. A lot of people were way more organised than me and put their top products of 2017 at the end of 2017. I didn't, so it's happening this week. So I decided to split this video into 3 parts, mainly because in previous years I've done like top 15 products of 2015 and like top products of each category, but I decided that this time around I didn't want to have to choose between 2 things I loved mentioning, so I decided to mention it all in a 3-part video series that will be going up today, tomorrow, and the next day, I think, if I'm all organised. So today what I'm going to be doing is talking about face products, so face makeup. So base products, primers, all the way through to setting sprays, highlighters, blushes, bronzers, foundations, concealers. So that's what I'm sort of talking about today. Tomorrow I'll be talking about eyes, eyebrows, and lip products. And then on the last day it will be everything else. So skincare, nails, brushes, etc., fragrances. So that's sort of how I'm splitting them up. And then maybe next week I might tackle fails of 2018 and also introduce my new project pan, which I am itching to get started. So that's what's happening in the next 2 weeks. So let's start with primer, and I'm not a big primer person. I find that primers often they make my makeup break down even faster, and I've got oily skin and it's a pain in the ass. So I've actually only been using 1 primer, and I don't know if this is my second tube or I do have backups of this because it's a great primer. This is the Hydra Blur primer, so it's by Dermalogica. It comes with this little like squidgy thing so you can move it along as you use it, so you're not wasting any product, which I really appreciate. So this is sort of, it does what it says it's supposed to do. It is a hydrating primer that also sort of mattifies and blurs the skin. So it definitely does minimize the look of pores and fine lines. So you could use this on your own if you're just wearing like a no makeup day, but it definitely does add hydration into the skin as well. And I do have oily combination skin, so there are times throughout the year where I might have slight dry patches and I feel like my mattifying foundations that I always tend to use look kind of shit over them, but this sort of helps keep your skin hydrated but also slightly blur the skin. And I like that it's lightweight and doesn't clog pores or make my makeup break down any faster. So for me, this is sort of like skincare. It's like a really nice looking moisturizer. All right, so for foundation, I still love some of my old favorites. So like Revlon Color Stay, I adore. This year was a year for me where I was trying to clean out old foundations. So I put a lot of foundations in my project pan and I used up, I don't know, 3 or 4 foundations. So I allowed myself to buy a couple more when I'd used up a few, so I'm got it under control. But things like Revlon Color Stay, I still love. It's still one of my all-time favorite foundations, but this year I just didn't touch it because I was trying to use up other stuff. So I'm going to start with probably my favorite foundation of the year. It's by Fenty Beauty. So Fenty Beauty hit the market this year and was like huge, and this is the Pro Filter Soft Matte Longwear Foundation, and my shade is 170. I was color matched on the Sephora Australia website and I think it did a pretty good job. This does have the tendency to oxidize slightly, so if you are tossing up between 2 shades, go for the lighter one because it might sort of warm up when you wear it. But this is a beautiful foundation. It goes on really easily, really smoothly. It's not hard to blend. It looks really, really flawless. I'm wearing it today, and it does last reasonably well. It's not as long lasting as something like Revlon Color Stay, which is why I still love that. But this, you know, it's a pretty solid foundation. If you do have any dry patches or dry skin, you might struggle with this because it does have that kind of soft matte, sort of soft touch matte finish that can emphasize dry skin and flakes. But if you don't have dry patches, this is a really nice foundation. The next foundation I want to mention that I have really been loving, and I especially love it for filming days. This is not a perfect foundation by no means, but I was quite impressed with it. So it is by Marc Jacobs and it is the Remarkable foundation. This is the highest coverage foundation I've ever tried in my life. It's crazy. The packaging is a bit annoying. So you take off the lid and you twist it off, and it's got this sort of like stick that you just kind of dot on your face or dot onto your brush if you don't want to put it directly on your face. I just find that kind of the opening gets really, really messy. But this is by far the most high coverage foundation. And on, like, when I'm filming, I like to use high coverage foundations. This is not an everyday sort of foundation for me, but it definitely has its place. If you're going out, if you're wanting to look quite high coverage, this is really, really great. And what I love about it as well is I like coverage, but I don't like having to cake foundation on to get that coverage. So a lot of foundations you can get quite full coverage if you build them up, but for me I would prefer a thinner layer so it doesn't feel like I'm wearing a mask. And because you only use, like with that stick, I might dot on in 4 places and that will cover my whole face, full cover. Like, it is crazy, but you really do buff it in and get a really thin layer. So you do feel that it's on your skin. It's definitely there, it's high coverage, but in terms of high coverage foundations, you can make this feel quite lightweight and still get the coverage, which is really hard to do. So I love this. I don't think, some days if I've got slightly drier skin or I don't know, I've got some skin texture and whatnot, this can look quite cakey because just the nature of the full coverage. And it doesn't last as long as something like the Fenty foundation, but it definitely has a place. It definitely has a place. So those were the 2 sort of higher coverage foundations that I really like, and there are 2 drugstore ones that I want to mention as well. So this one is by Wet n Wild. This is the foundation, Photofocus foundation, and my shade that I've got here is Nude Ivory. It's too light for me, but I can always bronze it up. I was actually given this by a subscriber, so I can't get Wet n Wild in Australia, but Wet n Wild are doing some good stuff, and I've got a few favourites in my favorites of the year from them. So they're definitely, if you've got access to them, they're a drugstore brand that I highly recommend. So the reason I like this is because it is really long lasting. I can wear this to work and know that my foundation isn't going to kind of break down and separate and look horrible throughout the day. But I find that this is a little bit patchy to apply. It's not super full coverage. You will need to layer it if you want more coverage, but just for an everyday foundation that you don't need to have to worry about, is it going dewy on me? Is it breaking down? This is a really good one, but you might need to put a little bit more effort into blending it on the skin because it can look a bit patchy. So yeah, it's definitely not as smooth to apply like the Fenty one. It's not as full coverage as the Fenty one. Definitely not as full coverage as the Marc Jacobs one, but for an everyday sort of like lighter foundation that lasts a really long time and that's really affordable, this one is very good. The last foundation that I want to mention is more of a BB cream type thing, and this one some people will love, some people will hate. I personally really like it. It's by L'Oreal and it is the Glam Beige Healthy Glow Foundation. This one looks jacked up, but it's because it's put a sticker all the way around it, because in Australia this is an SPF of 15, but I think overseas it's a higher SPF. We've got stronger UV rays, so whatever. But this is a really runny, light, sort of like a BB cream, but it's decent coverage for something that's sort of in that category. This reminds me a lot of the Garnier oily skin BB cream. That's really, really great. I really love it. It reminds me a lot of that. But I think this lasts a little bit better. So this is in the shade Light, which is the lightest in Australia, and it's not light. It's too dark for me, but I make it work. You can see that it is really runny, and it's very alcohol. It's got a lot of alcohol and a lot of fragrance. So if you've got like really sensitive skin, you won't like it, but you can buff it into your skin. I just use just a kabuki brush, and it really does make your skin look sort of natural but flawless. So if you don't want heaps of coverage and you want something for like a no makeup day, I've really been enjoying this, but you do have to be careful. It's got fragrance, it's got alcohol, but man, it makes your skin look really good. And this is the kind of thing that, yeah, if I'm just going down to the shops, if I'm just going to work, this is the type of thing that I have been reaching for a lot. I just wish the colour range was a lot better. All right, on to concealers, and there's only really one standout concealer and one that came close. So in everyone's 2016 favourites, people mentioned the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer, and I only got my hands on this earlier this year, so I've been using it most of the year, and I've got two shades. I've got light neutral, which is a little bit more warm, and I've got light, which is a little bit more cool, and I just kind of wear them depending on the season. I really like these. When I first got them, I was a little bit disappointed because I'd heard so much hype. It was in everyone's 2016 favorites, and they were saying like it's the best concealer of the world. And I was a bit like, is it? Is it? And it's a really good concealer, I'm not gonna lie. I still don't think it lives up to the hype. It doesn't tick all boxes, but I think it's a really, really great concealer, and it's one that I've been consistently reaching for throughout the whole year. So I love these. I think that they're not as high coverage as a lot of people say they are, and I think they work better on people with normal to oily skin because they do set a lot. So if you don't like something, if you want something to stay creamy, these are not the ones for you, but this is what I like. I also don't like using too much concealer, so what I tend to do, these have really massive doe foot applicators, so they're huge, and I just put a dot there and a dot there, and with like a small sponge, I'll just blend it out. And I think they work really well. They last all day, so I do really like them. You also get heaps of product in here. We did a makeup breakup, we did how many swatches, and these just keep going forever. And then if you take out the stopper and you like put a brush in the actual tube, you will still have heaps more product. So even though these are really annoying for anyone who's out of the US, because you can only buy these on the Tarte website and you got to pay for shipping, I do think that if you wanted to give them a go, they're definitely worth it. They're definitely worth the investment, and I've been really enjoying them. Another concealer that I've been really enjoying, so if you want a cheaper one, it's the one that goes with this Wet n Wild foundation. So it's the Photofocus concealer. This is really, really nice as well. This is in the shade Light Ivory. It's pretty decent shade for like highlighting under my eyes. And I just find that this is a really basic, does everything I need it to do concealer. So it's not as sort of full coverage and creamy as the Tarte Shape Tape, but you get the same effect. It lasts the same amount of time, and it's a really good, more affordable option. Okay, onto face powder, and I'm a powder queen. I've got oily skin, so I really set my foundation with a lot of powder, and I haven't really found anything that I've loved that's different from what I've previously been using. So Australis Fresh and Flawless pressed powder, you know, the Rimmel Stay Matte, I like all those, but one powder that I have introduced into my makeup routine, and it's nearly finished, I need to repurchase it, is by Laura Mercier. I do like her loose setting powder. That was really, really nice. I used that earlier this year, but this is a Secret Brightening Powder, and it is a white powder. It does have a bit of a kind of sheen. No, sheen's a wrong word. If you swatch it and you look at it under a light, you can see a bit of a slight sparkle in it, because it is for the under eye area and it is to illuminate the under eye area. But just in normal everyday everything, it doesn't look sparkly under your eyes. It just works really, really nicely as a setting powder. I do find that since I am getting older and I've got slight sort of fine lines around here, if I don't set my concealer really, really well, it settles and it looks really kind of, it looks really bad. This is the type of powder that stops that from happening. This sets pretty much any concealer in its tracks and makes it look really, really smooth. So this has nearly been finished. I've got just the tiniest amount left, but it is a really, really good under eye concealer setting powder, and I definitely would recommend it. The only thing I have to say though, because it is that white powder and it does have slight illumination stuff in it, really bad for flash photography, but for filming, for every day, it's really, really great, and it's lasted me a very long time. So yeah, it's little, but it's very good. All right, on to bronzing and contouring. I don't have many products to talk about. If you have been following my channel, you'd know that I used up an entire Physicians Formula bronzer, pretty much from almost untouched all the way through to completely used up in my project pan. So that took up most of the year. So I was using one bronzer and I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but it's only been the last few months that I've been playing with other bronzers. One that I do want to mention that's probably my most used, but it's been discontinued, so it's sort of irrelevant, but I want to mention it anyway. This is by Stila. It is the Sun SPF 15 bronzing powder in shade 01. So this is the second one I've actually been using. I used up one a few years ago. I enjoyed it so much that I went and bought this one, and then this sat in a drawer until earlier this year, and I have been using it enough to hit pan on it. So you might be looking at this bronzer and being like, Kat, that is way too orange for you, and yeah, it is if I was using it as a contour, which I'm not. This is a matte bronzer and it is very warm, but what I use it for and what I really enjoy using it for, I'll get a massive sort of fluffy brush like this one. This is a Morphe one, and I would just kind of dab it in, tap it off, and then just put it over my face. I'll kind of concentrate it in the perimeter just to add a bit of warmth or definition, not contouring, and it sort of just makes me look a lot healthier. So if I'm wearing something that is a bit too fair for me, so like this foundation, I can bring it back to life with something like this, which is why I've used it so much. So I really love this. I'm gonna have to find a dupe when it goes away, but it's beautiful. All right, on to other kind of bronzer contour products that I have enjoyed in the last few months, and I don't contour much, so I'm more of a fan of getting a really fluffy brush and just warming the perimeter of my face than actually like chiseling out a contour, so keep that in mind. But this one by Wet n Wild I really like. So this is the contour palette, the Mega Glow contour palette, and it's got a matte sort of cream, slightly banana color. It's not super banana, it's not as like jaundiced looking on fair skin, but it does have a kind of yellow tint to it, and then there's this sort of matte bronzer as well. Now I really like this. I like them both. I think they're nice. I don't often use these kind of things though, but this side's really nice. It's quite dark, so you can kind of chisel out cheekbones if you wanted to, but it is very blendable as well. So if you do want to just kind of buff it in, it works a treat. I've really been enjoying that. And if you look at the two shades together, you'll see that this is, like I was saying, much warmer. It's more orange. This is a lot cooler. It's almost looking a bit greeny grey compared to it. So that's more of a contour. That's more of an all-over bronzer. This, if I used it as an all-over bronzer, would make me look a little bit dirty. Then a few weeks ago, I put up a video of me trying out Model's Own makeup, and some of that makeup was really good, really affordable, really great, and there are things in there like the highlighter and the eyeshadows that I did really enjoy. Didn't make it into my top products of 2017 because I haven't used them as much as I'd like, but one that I have been consistently wearing ever since I filmed that video, which was a month ago or something, was this Sculpt palette. This has really impressed me. So this is in the shade medium to tan 03. I'm not medium to tan, but it works for me really well. So you get 3 products in here. So it's got a really nice kind of contour bronzer, and this is a matte color. It's not as warm as the Stila one. It's not as dark as the Wet n Wild one, so I can use it as a contour or as a bronzer, and it blends really nicely. You can pick up too much on the brush and go, oh shit, I've deposited too much, but you can blend it away and it looks really beautiful. The highlight is really nice, and I particularly love the blush as well. So this is sort of reminds me a bit of Orgasm from NARS, but a much cheaper one, a big pan of it, and they're really beautiful. So this is a face palette that I've been wearing most days in the last month or 6 weeks. All right, let's move on to blushes, then highlighters, and then finishing spray, and we're done for this video. I'll be back tomorrow for the next one. But a blush that I have really enjoyed, it's also very similar to that one in the Model's Own palette, it's by Pixi. So this is the collab with Aspen Novard, and it is the Glowy Powder Rome Rose. So this is a beautiful blush. It's got a similar sort of coloring to it, so it's got a sort of pink base that almost looks a little bit peachy on the skin, and it's got a gold shimmer to it. Now I've been loving a kind of glowy cheek. It's a sort of lazy way to look really healthy if you wear a lot of matte foundation. I just find that putting the matte cheeks can look a bit like too matte, whereas a glowy blush, you don't even need to wear a highlighter half the time. It just looks gorgeous. I love this. It's just a beautiful blush. And when you do blend it out, it does look a little bit, it's like pinky peach on the skin. But it's also one of those blushes that it just applies really evenly and really softly, so you can build it up if you want to, but you don't go overboard with this, and it's really, really beautiful. That contains 10.21 grams of product, so I'll be having it for a while, but I don't hate it. Another blush that came out in 2017 that I've been really loving and I was using a lot, probably midway through the year, was this guy here from Too Faced. This is the Papa Don't Peach. Mine is sort of like destroyed because we destroyed it in the makeup breakup and repressed it. This is a beautiful blush. It's sort of like, once again, it's a good beginner's blush because it's a peachy pink. So if you're not sure what tone works with you or works with your skin tone, this sort of gives you a nice, it's like a neutral blush almost. Like it's not too pink and cool tone. It's not too warm and orange. It's sort of like that just in between. It's got a beautiful sort of glow to it. I don't know if you can see it there, but it's got a beautiful glow to it as well, but it's not a sparkle. And once again, similar to this Aspen Novard one, you can use it really softly and blend it out and look really natural, or you can build it up if you wanted to. So this is sort of like a foolproof, really easy to wear blush. It goes with all looks, and it just makes you look kind of a little bit healthier and glowy, which if you're like me and wear a lot of like high coverage mattifying foundations, you need a bit of glowiness in your life, and it's a really nice way to do it. Another blush collection that I've been really loving this year, and I sort of bought more of, so you can tell that I really like something when I've got one and I start using it and then I buy a few more of different shades. So that's what happened with these Milani baked blushes. So this is in the shade Coralina, which is sort of like a dark peachy orange color, and it's got a sparkle in it. So it's not for the faint-hearted, but because it is a baked blush, it is very smooth to apply. So if you swatch it, it can look a bit crazy, but on the skin, it looks really, really nice. So I was getting into this. It's actually sort of like flattened out a bit. I was getting into this earlier this year, and I decided to buy 3 more. But this is the swatch of it. It's got like, it's like a reddy orange, and it's got silver glitter, and the silver glitter, it does sort of like fall away when you've used it, so it doesn't look as crazy. But if you do want a beautiful glowy blush and you don't mind a reddy orange color, it'd be really nice on deeper skin tones too. But I went back and I bought 3 more, so clearly it's a blush range that I really like. These are baked blushes, so they're they're firmer in the pan, but when you pick them up on the brush, they apply really softly, so they're really, really pretty. So I've got some more muted shades. That's more of a kind of pinky nude. That one is in Berry Amore. Then I've got this Rose d'Oro one, which is more of, I guess, a nudier version and less sparkly version as that Coralina one. And then the really famous Luminoso, which I actually don't use this one as often as I probably should, but it's like a peach with a beautiful soft, almost champagne sort of sheen to it. It doesn't have glitter, so let's just swatch them. That's Luminoso up the top. It's, once again, it's got a beautiful, quite a nice sheen to it, but it's got a peachy base, so they're really, really pretty. All right, the last blush I want to mention is a new MAC range. It's this here. This is the Extra Dimension blush. So they brought out a range of these. I think there was 9 of them earlier this year, and I picked this up at the airport. This one is in the shade Telling Glow. I'm actually wearing this one today with no highlighter. So you can see I am getting a bit shiny under these lights and in this heat, but you can see that it gives a gorgeous glow. This looks really intense in the color. So if you swatch it, you can go, oh my God, it's neon orange. And if you swatch it, it would make a really nice eyeshadow as well. But if you use it with a brush, it doesn't actually pick up as much product as your finger does. So it's a weird formula that deposits only a small amount, but you can see I've got on my cheeks today. It gives that glow. So that sheen, that beautiful sheen that you can see in the blush, you can see it as almost like a highlighter. I don't need a highlighter today. I feel like this is enough glow. And I think it's a really, really beautiful formula. So this is quite an extreme color, but it's like no other color I've got in my collection. And it does apply really beautifully. So I am keen to try more shades from this range. But yeah, you could also use it as an eyeshadow, because if you just used it with your finger, it would make a very beautiful, vibrant, shimmery eyeshadow. So yeah, clearly last year I was big on the sort of peachy cheeks, not too much color and a lot of kind of glow. And I think I've been preferring that over wearing highlighters. I'm not wearing a highlighter at the moment. I'll demonstrate a couple soon. But I think it's just a way for me to get a really beautiful sort of soft glow without it being like, oh, here's my landing strip of highlighter. Like, yeah, land here plane, the lights are shining at you. Speaking of highlighters, I do have quite a few highlighters to talk about. And the first ones I'm going to talk about are from the same sort of collection as that MAC blush. So these are the Extra Dimension Skin Finishes by MAC. Now, they previously only brought these out in limited edition collections, so Christmas collections and whatnot. I do have one from, I think 2 years ago. I think it was called Oh Darling or something. Anyway, there's a few that they've brought out previously, but now they've got permanent ones, which I think is a great move. Prior to that, their permanent ones were mineralized skin finishes, which once again, I really like, but they didn't really hit the mark with that intense sort of intense highlighting or color shifting, interesting highlighters. They were just more like beautiful glowy highlighters. So the first collection they released was sort of like a color shifting collection. I did do a full review on it. If I have done any reviews on any of these products, I'll have the products listed, and I'll also have links to any reviews. But these were the ones that sort of had a color shift. So Soft Frost was more of a white that shift purple, and that was really on trend when it was released. It's a beautiful highlighter. I just find that for my skin tone, it tends to clash a little bit, but it is a beautiful highlighter. Then we had a Beaming Blush, which was, I think, a pink that shifted gold. So with that one, you can mainly just see the gold because the pink base, you don't really see too much. And then we also had Show Gold, which I think was like a peachy gold that shifted pink. That was my favorite one. So I don't know if you can see that last one. That was my favorite. It did have a bit of a sparkle in it, but it was so gorgeous on the cheeks. I really, really love it. So after they released the 4 initial sort of color shifting ones, they brought out a bigger range that weren't so much color shifting. They were just the same formula and different sort of like varieties of highlighters. I picked up this one in Superb, which is not really suited for me, but I thought it was superb. So this is more of a brown base with a beautiful kind of cool tone bronze shift to it. I've used this quite a bit actually, but I can use it on the face if I use it really lightly. It just adds, like if I've bronzed my face up, it adds a beautiful glow. Like it's really, really gorgeous. It's very, very unique. So I'm not sure if you can see it there. So it's got a bronze base and it's got like a cool bronze shift. It's really, really gorgeous. If you've got deep skin tones, this will look phenomenal on you. If you do have lighter skin tones, you can use it bronzed up or fake tanned. It's also beautiful on the legs or on the arms or on the shoulders if you want to have a beautiful kind of bronzy sheen. So this, yeah, a bit unconventional, but really, really beautiful. So I think this highlighter range was my favorite of the year. They're very kind of intense, but you can blend them out and make them look a lot more subtle. They all had beautiful different colors and they offered something different. It wasn't just 14 shades of champagne. And also they are quite intense, but they don't emphasize a lot of skin texture and they don't look horrible on the skin. So I really, really, really did enjoy these. The next range of highlighters that I went a bit nutso on this year was by Colourpop. I did actually originally get one. This was in the shade Might Be, which once again is sort of like a dark bronze, but it looks beautiful if you've bronzed. So if I've got some bronzer on, some contour, this is beautiful. It's so beautiful. So I loved it so much that I went back and I bought a whole bunch. Now I think I have at least 8 that I could find easily. So yeah, I went a bit crazy with them. But what I love about these is, once again, they're very intense highlighters, but because they're a moussey cream formula, which I originally thought would lift my foundation, I set my foundation a lot, so any cream product tends to go a bit on me, but these don't. These like instantly turn to a beautiful powder, and you can apply them with a brush, you can apply them with your fingers, and because they are a moussey consistency, they look really, really intense, but they blend out really nicely. And they also don't emphasize skin texture because it's not a powder that's sitting on top of your skin. It sort of like just works with the skin and it's gorgeous. So if I want to bronze, that Might Be one it's my favorite. And then another example is Wisp, which is a beautiful sort of gold. They just can give you an intense kind of sheen, but you can also blend it out to make it look sort of natural and really glowy, which I really love. So these are definitely one of my favorite highlighters. I often get stopped with, like if I'm at the shops, people are like, oh my God, what highlighter are you wearing? And I'm like, Colourpop. And it's funny when you're at Mecca or some high-end like store and they're like, oh, what's your highlighter? And I'm like, oh, it's like $6. But they rival any higher end ones. The ones I don't like, and I want to point these out because I bought 3 of them and I don't wear them. I've got Over the Moon, Perilune and Honeymoon, which are all sort of like color shifting ones. I bought these like I think in February when I was sort of into color shifting highlighters, and these are sort of just color shifting glitter. So these don't have the same beautiful sheen effect as the other highlighters. They're just like micro glitter in a gel kind of base, which I don't like, but the other highlighters are all phenomenal. I love them all. This is another one that people really love. This is in Flexitarian, which is like a champagne. It's gorgeous. 2 other highlighters that I've been really loving this year as well. I got these for my birthday from Hayley, and these are very higher end and they're very expensive and you get a heap of product in them. But these, I would say, if you're not into that highlighting trend that makes your skin look really crazy, these are beautiful. So these are by Kevin Aquan and they're the Neo highlighters. My favorite is Sahara. These are sort of like a massive pan of ombre, but they just look gorgeous on the skin. So this goes lighter to a more kind of brown, bronzy. And what they've done here is they've taken 3 popular highlighters in the existing range and they've just sort of ombre'd them together. Now I might demonstrate this because I do find that these, they give you that glow without it looking really harsh and really, look at me, look at my cheekbones. And I think this is a really beautiful way to highlight if you are a bit uncomfortable with the highlighting trend. So I'm just gonna go in and apply some. You can tell I really don't need it because I've got that glowy blush on, but you can see that it just gives a sort of, just a glow to the cheeks. So it's not sparkly, it's not really intense, it just gives a glow to the cheeks, which is really, really, really beautiful. So I love this one. The second one that I have is in Ibiza, which is a little bit more unique. And it goes from like a white highlighter to like a soft pinky purple through to a purple. Once again, this is more if you like the colored highlighting trend, but if you don't like them being really intense, this is a really beautiful, softer way to use it. So really, really pretty. This will be gorgeous on fair skin tones. Then I've got 2 highlighter palettes that I want to talk about. These are both sort of colored highlighters. So if you like that sort of colored highlighter look, which was all the rage this year, the 2 picks for me, one is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Aurora palette. I haven't reviewed this. I got this like a few months after it was released, so I didn't actually review it. But if you wanted to try the Moonchild one but didn't like all the blues and the silvers, this one is a notch up. This is so much better. So you get 6 shades and there's like 2 peachy colors that sort of shift pink. Reminds me a lot of this MAC one that I was talking about that I love so much. So it's a bit of a peachy base with a pink sort of shift. This Luna one is sort of like a white, but it's quite a complicated white. It's got pink in it, it's got other colors in it, so it doesn't look really frosty. This purple, I'll demonstrate. It looks grey and weird, but is the best purple highlighter. And then this beautiful kind of gold green. So if you wanted to try something that's a little bit green, but you're a bit worried about trying a green highlighter, this has sort of like a greeny gold look to it and it's beautiful on the skin. The one I don't love, and it's not a bad highlighter, but it just doesn't suit me, is this blue, but the rest are gorgeous and totally worth it. I'm going to show you the purple because this is one that I was really intrigued by, and I love the idea of purple highlighters, but I think they can look really frosty and harsh or a bit strange on the skin. But because this one is a little bit muted, it's got a little bit of pink in it, it's gorgeous. All right, so I've got no highlighter on this cheek and I'll put the purple on. So you can see it just gives like, it's a purpley pink and it's just gorgeous. I don't know if you can see that, but I love it. I think it's so unique. It's really flattering. It doesn't look like I've got a blue strip on my cheek. It's really, really pretty. So I think that if you want colored highlighting, I think the Aurora palette is a lot more wearable than most palettes on the market. All right, the next highlighter palette that I want to mention that I don't reach for often, but I really respect, and I think it's a really good palette, is the Alchemist palette by Kat Von D. So this is that pure color shifting highlighter palette. It's called a holographic palette. That annoys me to no end. It's not holographic, but it does have beautiful color shifting, color transforming highlighters. So these are the shapes of eyeshadows because they're eye and face products. So you can use them as eyeshadows. You can use them on top of your lip products. You can use them on your face. And these just are really, really beautiful. I think they're perfect examples of what colored highlighters should be in terms of the formula. You've got a pink, you've got a purple, which is kind of like a purpley blue. You've got a green, and you've got blue, which is more of a like a turquoisey sort of color. It's quite unique. It does have a lot of green in it, and I haven't found any other sort of highlighter sort of that color. So if you wanted to have, if you had a brown shimmery eyeshadow and you wanted to make like a blue brown pigment looking one, you just put that over the top and you get that same sort of effect. So this is a beautiful formula. It works really well on the face. It works really well on the eyes. Transforming a lip is beautiful. These are colors that I don't reach for every day, but I really respect the formula. And if someone asked me, I want a color shifting highlighter, but I want like the best formula, this is the one to go for. It doesn't have much product in it, but I think with these highlighters, you're not going to hit pan on them anytime soon. But this is a really beautiful, versatile palette, and the formula is really good. I just thought I'd swatch them all. So they all look very, very different and unique, and they all can add something different to a look. They're really nice. All right, the last product I want to mention is a finishing spray. I'm not a big setting spray person. I'm not a big finishing spray person. I've tried a few and I just go, what's the point? It's an extra step that doesn't really do anything. But one that I've been loving that I recently had in Empty's video, so I don't have it currently with me, but it's the MAC Fix Plus finishing spray. So it's not a setting spray. It doesn't make my makeup last any longer. It doesn't lock it in, but what it does do that I really, really love, not only does it smell phenomenal, it's such a nice smell, but it just sort of calms down the powderiness of my makeup. So if you're like me and you wear really sort of mattifying foundations, you wear really budge-proof concealers, you set it with a lot of powder and you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, I look a bit cakey and a little bit powdery, something like MAC Fix Plus, you just spray it and it really settles down your makeup. So it sort of brings it all together, it sort of hydrates it. So it definitely doesn't add to the wear time, but it doesn't detract from the wear time as well. But it just refreshes it and makes your makeup look like it's almost skin again. So that's a product that I love and I need to repurchase. But it's a really good product if you have a lot of powder, if you wear a lot of powder. All right, guys, that was a really long-winded one. I apologize. But if you do want to tune in tomorrow to see my favorite lip products and eye products and brow products, hopefully it will be not as long as this. Anyway, I'll be back. So I'll see you tomorrow.